Hello and welcome back. In part 2 of this monochrome painting lesson, we're going to continue using burnt umber as a tonal painting exercise, and this time we're going to paint some figures. We're going to do a couple torso studies, and in the first video, in part 1, we went over the principles and the concepts behind doing a burnt umber tonal painting, so definitely review part 1. And in this video, I'm going to do 3 different examples using the figure. Okay, let's review the observation steps. So remember, really what we're doing here is we're training our eye and our mind to see value and then to translate that value into this new medium of painting. So the first step is to make good value observations. And again, if you haven't seen the in-depth lesson on that topic, how to observe value and how to make value compositional choices, definitely review that material as well. Now, in this example of a figure, and this reference comes from the New Masters Academy, their daily life drawing sessions that's free on their YouTube channel, so check them out for more great reference. Now they use wonderful lighting here, and this is the kind of lighting that you want ideally when you're painting not just a figure but any subject. Nice strong single source lighting, so it produces beautiful clear shadows. So let's take a look at that. That's the first thing we want to do here is to see the clear shadow shapes. Now these 3 images here, the second image in the middle, this one here is a 2-value observation. So this is a simplified 2-value observation, and this is just something I made in Photoshop real quick using some filters. But it kind of gives you an idea of where the shadow shapes lie. Now the light is on the upper right, so the shadow shapes will be on the left. And you definitely want to squint when you're making these observations. So if you squint at the model, at the reference, and then you look over at the second image, you can see that there is a real clear read when you just simplify it to 2 values, light side and shadow. And that's what we're seeing here. We're grouping all the darks we see into one shape, shadow, grouping all the lights and light halftones we see into one shape, and we're calling it lights. So that's what we're going to paint. That's how we want to see, and then that's what we're going to translate into paint, is the shapes. And then the third image on the right here, this is a 3-value observation. So what we're doing now is we're adding a value between light and shadow. In the second image, 2-value, we just have light, shadow. Now we have light, shadow, and then something in between, which is called the halftone or the mid-tone. And here there's a couple, using this simplified diagram here that I made in Photoshop. There's a couple different ways we could go with the halftone, but that's really up to the artist, if you want to take halftones into more the dark side or the light side, but that's for another discussion there. And what this does is it shows you that really, when you look at a figure, you're really seeing you're really seeing shapes. You want to train your eye to see these shapes, and then what we do as artists, we blend the shapes together to make them feel smooth and round and like natural form. And that's our goal. But this is what we first want to paint and first want to draw, and then definitely what we want to paint, because painting is really about painting shapes, and that's our goal here. So these are our value observations, and we want to do this before we begin every painting. Okay, starting with the first figure standing pose. So again, I'm only going to do the torso. And like I mentioned before, if you If you don't want to draw a figure is hard to draw. That's a whole other lesson. It's a whole other topic. Stick with the still life, simple forms, even landscapes. I think the most important thing is that if the light is good, you'll have that clear light and shadow. That's what we want. That's the most important thing. Clear light, clear shadow. So props to the folks at New Masters. Their beautiful photography there. Actually, I'm going to draw shadow shape. So you can see in this stage why the observation step is so important. Because that's all I'm really doing. Okay. So this is more of a non-traditional watercolor technique. Going very dark very quickly. You're not really supposed to do that. And just going through the shadow shapes that I planned out, that I see. And then I'm going to try to soften the edge a little bit. So what I do is I put down a little bit of tone, then use a little bit of water and a little bit of pigment. Exactly like drawing, kind of, to, it's like a charcoal drawing. You put some tone down, and then you smush it around, you move it around with your tool or your smudgy stick or whatever. And we try to do it more of a alla prima style. I'm trying to pretend like this is a live model. I'll be doing the exact same thing from life, exact same techniques. it's really all I need to do here. Obviously I can go lighter. Or excuse me, go darker. But I don't really feel I need to do that for this study. Put a little bit of tone there. I still want to make room for the one next to it. So that's really all there is to it in this little demonstration here. Okay, before we begin the second demonstration of a side pose, I'm going to just quickly review the observation steps. So again, this is probably the most important step when you're first learning how to paint, or really when you're first learning art in general, you want to see this way, but definitely when you want to transition from drawing to painting. So starting with the second image in the middle there, we can see a nice, beautiful two-value pattern. Light is coming from the right side, so all the shadow on the left side, we want to group as much as possible. So we have a clear light shapes and clear shadow shapes. And on the third image on the right, we have our three-value observation. And what we're doing here is basically adding mid-tones. Remember, to make three values, all you have to do is take the shadows, group all the shadows, group all the lights, and then we finally add a value in between to help us transition, to smooth out the form, to help round the form. And that's the mid-tone or the half tone. And that's what we see here in our three-value observation. And this is going to be our goal. These are the shapes that we're going to paint when we actually paint the model. Okay, a little side view. That's one thing I like about doing these little torso studies. It allows you to focus more on the modeling, the rendering, and the paint in this case. Not so much having to draw the whole figure. But obviously, as you get better with figure drawing, if you're already experienced, then that shouldn't be too much to worry about. And side pose is really, really quick. Trying to draw a little bit of the shadow shapes. Not too much to work with here, actually, since the light is kind of in front and behind, or in front and to the right. But that's okay. We'll still be able to translate into paint. It'll still look cool. The watercolor wash, hopefully. Okay. So just like before, just put my wash down, starting with my shadow shapes. I'm trying to make this a little bit darker. So if you're watching this and you have already seen and reviewed the previous demonstration, the skull, it's the exact same thinking every time, exact same process. The drawing, once we have the drawing, then we do the shapes, shadow shapes, exactly like our observation step. That's why I stress the observation so much. This is really that important. Really is the beginning of everything we do as a painter. Painters paint shapes, and if you don't see the shapes, then you're going to be in trouble. So that's all I'm doing here. Painting shapes. And now I'm using, remember what I said about half tone is between shadow and light? Well, the paper will be my light. The shadow I just put down. And now what I'm doing is the half tone. As you can see, putting a beautiful wash. That's going to be the highlight. I'm going to leave that. These little highlights I'm going to leave. The white of the paper, because that's the nature of watercolor. You can't go backwards in light, obviously. Let me try to go over the shadow a little bit. Make it a little more interesting. Put some accent there, if I can. Oh, might have went too far there. Okay, and then I'm going to go back to the previous one, see if I can add some coarse shadow effect. Essentially trying to make the coarse shadow a little bit darker. Okay, that's pretty much the end of this little demonstration here. Let me use a big brush. This is some new paper I'm trying, and it dries very quickly. I think because it's so thin. It's not very heavy paper. It dries very quickly. And from what I read, it's not fully paper. But yeah, if you read the article there, I have some links to the materials or paper that I recommend. Okay, on to the next demonstration. Okay, last demonstration, and one more time, I'm going to go over the observation step, and it's worth repeating. This is how important this is. So start. Once you squint at the model, you can clearly see the light and shadow patterns start to group, and that's what the second image is, our two-value observation. Light shapes group together, shadow shapes group together into large masses, large shapes. And finally, the third image on the right is our three-value observation. We group the shadows, we group the lights, and then we add a third value shape, which is in between light and shadow, known as the halftone or the midtone. And this helps us to render, to model, to help round and turn the form. And these are the shapes that we're going to paint when we paint from the model. Okay, here we have a back pose. So I really enjoy these back poses. I'm going to do this one a little bit bigger, just for fun, see how it turns out. Let me try to keep it in the frame there. So when I was starting out, I did figure drawing at least 3 times a week, sometimes 4 or 5. I enjoyed it so much. And obviously I got good very quickly. I mean, not just the repetition, but the quality of information. That's what I'm trying to help you guys with here. Share some of the information that helped me in my career become a professional in Los Angeles. But again, don't worry about the subject. I just like figures and skulls. It's fun for me. If you like figures and skulls, go for it. Follow along. If not, like I said in part 1, keep it simple. Keep it simple. It's really about painting. It's not about the figure. It's not about the subject, really. It's more of an exercise to get you to start painting and start seeing in shapes using the medium and starting to get comfortable with the color, the burnt umber. So as long as your lighting is good and you have nice clear shadows, the subject really doesn't matter. Probably said that like 20 times. Okay. This beautiful shadow, this erector spinae, I believe it's called. Let's see, let's start here. Oh yeah, this is way more fun with the big brush. The small brush you saw me using, or the medium one, is round number 8, Winsor Newton. No, Bob Simmons, excuse me. Robert Simmons. It's a wonderful brush, but man, it is sharp. Felt like a knife, almost. Very sharp. Doesn't have like the give, a little bit of give that I like. A little bit of sponginess. Oh, this is much nicer. I'm liking this brush a lot better. This is a silver brush by Silver Brush. It's the name of the company. I believe it's an American company. But White Sable, that's the hair that I recommend. Okay, so what I'm doing, shadow shape, you know if you've seen part 1. If you saw any of my other videos, I'm a broken record when it comes to this topic, because this really is the beginning and the end, the alpha and the omega. We all start here as realists, as illustrators. We all end here. Shadow, shape. How do we translate light and shadow? We start with the shape. Why? Because it is complex. It is a complex beast. And in order to make complexity manageable, we simplify. So think 2D, think graphic. That's why the observation, again, how many times I got to say that, is so important. Because we got to think, see in shapes and paint the shapes. Or draw the shapes, but we're painting shapes, same thing. Tonal painting is drawing. Tonal painting is drawing. Say that again. Tonal painting is drawing. What is it? Repeat after me. Tonal painting is what? Is drawing. What is drawing? What is drawing? Shape, value, edge. What was that first one? Shape. Oh, translating shapes. Translating shapes. Okay. So, anyway, broken record. If you're new to me, get used to that because you're going to hear that. Yeah, if you're new to me, you're going to hear that like 100 billion times. Separate light, shadow, da 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 da. Painters paint shapes. That's all I'm doing, really, right? If you watch closely, all I'm doing is translating the shapes that I see. Now, my shapes look good. Obviously, they read. If you're new, right, and your drawing isn't as experienced, they're not going to look as good. But that's okay. That's where the repetition comes from. What I'm showing you is the fundamental concept, the principle. So you repeat the correct principle with constant repetition. That part you can control. The information, good information you have to get from someone like me. But the repetition, that's where you control. That's up to you. So once you can get good information, what do you do with it? You just simply repeat it over and over again. And that's exactly what I did, my teachers did. Steve Huston taught me, that's all he does. Repeat the same thing over and over and over again. And what we do is nothing new. Rembrandt came before us, was doing it. Great masters before him. Master illustrators, Cornwell, Wyeth, Pyle. Oh, we're doing it. All right. Yeah, this one turned out decent. So that's pretty much the end of this final demo, tonal burnt umber wash, burnt umber painting. Okay, that's the end of this video. I want to thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this lesson on monochrome tonal painting using burnt umber. Like you've seen here, you can get a lot done with only one color, and you can definitely learn a lot, both about the process of painting and the principles and concepts behind painting, which are really still, in a lot of ways, drawing principles. Painting, in a lot of ways, is just drawing with colors, really. So we're going to take it one step at a time, one color at a time, one concept at a time, and that's what we did here in this lesson. And you definitely want to review and practice. Check out the article, the text version, so you can have that as a reference. And if you're new to this, this can take some time to get these concepts down. But once you understand these concepts, you're going to go a long ways in your art, and your painting will definitely start to come along, especially as you get comfortable with the medium. So that's a whole other step that this video doesn't cover, but that's obviously a big part of it, is becoming familiar with the medium. So that's the end of this lesson. If you like this video, and if you like my work, definitely, and if you haven't already, check out the free newsletter that I write every month, Private School. It has a lot more great content like this, and you'll be given access to exclusive content that I only release to subscribers. You'll get a lot of content first before I make it public, and you'll get discounts on courses and updates on new courses, new lessons, seminars, coaching, and things like that, and live events that I'll be doing. So yeah, it's the newsletter is free, and all you have to do is go to www.drawwithchris.com, and there you can enter your email, and you'll be good to go. So that's it for this lesson. And until next time, get out there, keep drawing, and build up your mileage. Bye for now.